So manifestation starts with gratitude. I'm so grateful to have you all here tonight with me. We're going to talk about orgasmic manifestation. Does anyone know what it is? Yeah, I've told you about it. Anyone else? You're going to be enlightened.
I've read your book 3 times.
Okay, so. 3 times. 3 is the magic number. And you?
I think, I'm not sure, does it have to do with what's called sex magic?
Yeah.
When you're about to orgasm, you just cling to all these beautiful energies you bring and visualize and manifest everything that you want.
Exactly. So that's what we're going to all do tonight when we go home. Yeah. Amazing. So this is the title of my book, Orgasmic Manifestation, Transform Your Life with Your Sexual Energy. It's a translation of my book in Spanish, which was written a year and a half ago. I published it with Planeta. And it was interesting because I hadn't written in Spanish for 10 years, and I just channeled the book. There was no writer's block. It just kind of came through me, and it just seemed very smooth. Also, I first came to the cover 3 years ago to give the presentation on this topic. So everything about this topic for me kind of aligns and flows. But there's I feel a bit afraid talking about this topic for 2 reasons. Because we're bringing together 2 taboos, sexuality and witchcraft. Well, it's kind of like a witchy topic. And it brings up, some people think you've lost your mind if you speak about these things. You really have to know your audience. So I hope you are an open audience. I hope you don't need scientific proof, because it's about trying and, trial and error. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Sorry, I need you over now. Okay. What is it? So orgasmic manifestation is also known as sex magic with a K. Do you know why it's with a K? Anyone know? No? So it was devised by Aleister Crowley, who's a kind of legend in the history of sex magic. He used to be known as the scariest man in the world or something like that. And magic with a K is about manifestation, whereas magic with a C is about entertainment, pulling, rabbits out of hats and things like that. So there's like a way of differentiating the 2 types of magic. So magic is anything that's not scientific, basically. And then more recently, it's been called the O method on social media. And this has been getting quite viral on platforms like TikTok, because I don't know if you've noticed or if you follow many sexual wellness creators, we're not allowed to use the word sex. It has to be S-E-G-G-S or S-X. There's a lot of censorship, so the bots know. So words like orgasmic are really problematic, as are sex. So the O method is a way to kind of bypass the censorship. So a lot of people are using it that way, or using that term on social media. Okay, so basically what it is when you indulge in any sexual activity, that can be masturbation or it can be partnered sex, it's about setting an intention before, and then when you're at the moment of orgasm, going back to that intention and almost launching it to the universe, sending it off, sending all that energy away. So it requires discipline, and some people like to really ritualize this, and other people want to just have the minimum interruption to their normal routines as possible. So in my book I actually talk about many different methods of doing this. You may know law of attraction. You're all familiar with law of attraction? Mm-hmm. Yes? Anyone want to tell me what the law of attraction is? What is the law of attraction?
You're putting out energies in the world that starts to bring back things to you in a similar fashion?
Exactly, it's about like attracting like, so you become what you want to attract. Any other thoughts on law of attraction? The Secret, have you read The Secret? You watched the film, The Secret documentary? That came out in late 2000s, and it was very popular at the time. And the difference between law of attraction, or the similarities, it's about imagining that your ideal reality already exists. So you're already grateful for the thing you want. And even the word want can mean lack. So we're saying, I'm grateful for my amazing, whatever it is, my amazing life, bicontinental life, which is a thing I'm trying to manifest right now. So that's the thing, the law of attraction is a state, it's a frequency. whereas sex magic is a practice. You can actually do both things. That's a very different, big distinction, because sex magic is a thing you do during sexual activity, whereas law of attraction is a constant state. It's kind of constantly having that frequency or energy that you want to attract. Okay, my story. Have you ever been in a situation where you were worried about how you were going to eat, how you were going to pay the bills? You don't have to share, it's really personal, but I've been in a situation so many times in my life. And scarcity has a really bad reputation, but there are some good things about scarcity. Scarcity makes you resilient and it makes you creative. When you think about foods like pizza or even tortilla de patatas, I think that came from times of scarcity where there's nothing left, so let's be creative with what we have. And I became very used to that type of thinking. In the UK, when you're a student, you become very creative with money. And that's kind of something that a lot of people experience, not just poor people, but also kind of richer people as well. So I got used to this type of living, being, and even Minesh, if I can share, is my friend from Madrid many moons ago. We were struggling. We used to go out in huertas and just get the free shots. We have one free shot, go to the next bar. We got very creative. And we got drunk for free. It was kind of funny. And then we had piles of coins for each day, you know. So there are some moments of, you know, when you struggle, that can really have some kind of positive experience. And it's kind of endearing when you look back and think, oh my God, remember when? But obviously when you're going through it, it can be very, very difficult. So I've been through these situations many times in my life. And when I was starting my website in 2009, I was at a time when I was working in real estate, commission only, in luxury real estate, and I had no money, so there was nothing selling at that time. I had an empty fridge, and I was in luxury apartments every day. People were measuring where to put their projectors, and I was like, my God, my fridge is empty. And then I went to a family wedding, and my family said to me, just get married. Let's just find a rich guy, that's the answer to everything. And I thought, no, I'm gonna start a sex blog. So that's what I did, and I started a sex blog, as you do. That was my best option, imagine how bad it was. And I also had a rat infestation in my apartment, so it was just a big contrast of being in luxury apartments in the day and coming out to an empty fridge and having to buy rat poison before actually eating. So that moment in time, actually, I started my sex blog, and as soon as I made that decision, I had my first book deal within 5 weeks. It just goes to show when you're on the right path, things start happening. So then I got very, very, very busy, and then back in 2018 or 2017 was another moment of absolute struggle for me. I was living in Barceloneta in a penthouse apartment attico, which sounds good, but I had 300 sex toys because I'm a sex toy reviewer, no pillow, no table, and no sofa. So it was, and I was cold and hungry, or cold or hungry. It was just constant struggle all the time. And I had about 400 euros in the bank, and I was just thinking, I was sitting on the beach one day and I thought, oh my God, I need to do something different. I need to change something about my life. And there was a vegan group that I'm actually the owner of now, and they were having an event on a Friday night, and the menu was 15 euros. And I was so lonely, and I thought, I really want to go to this event, but it's 15 euros, I can't really afford that. And it was the beginning of the month, March 2018 this was. But my loneliness, I just thought I'm going to go anyway. So I went along to this event, I paid the 15 euros, had this meal in a place called Lortet. Do you know this place in Raval? Lortet? Anyway, I've not been back, but that was the last time I really struggled with money. And then in the event, someone said, oh, we're going for cocktails after. I thought, I can't get a cocktail. But then someone said, I'll get you a cocktail. I was like, oh my God, thank you. So I go and get the cocktail, and then after that it was raining really hard, and I had to walk all the way back to Barceloneta with no umbrella, no way of getting a taxi. And I really learned the hard way, I cannot carry on like this. The next day I started searching online self-help things to try and make myself feel better. What could I do to actually improve my life? And that's when I came across Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. You know this book?
Yes.
Have you read it?
Yes.
Isn't it amazing? So this book really blew my mind, because at the time I'd been a sexpert for 9 years, and I thought I knew a lot about sexuality. My focus has always been on female pleasure, overcoming taboo, prioritizing pleasure. And I thought that was the top way of experiencing sexuality. But when I discovered, I think it's chapter 10, the mystery of sex transmutation, I was blown away. Think and Grow Rich is the best-selling book of success of all time. It was published 88 years before my book. I don't know if that's a mystical number, but 1937 it was published. And it's still relevant today. It's timeless information. And in this chapter about the mystery of sex transmutation, he talks about how successful people know how to channel and transmute their sexual energy towards their goals. Because sexuality is a very personal expression, and it's something that can be constructive or destructive depending on how you use it. And I personally don't believe that the culture of promiscuity and just doing it like or porn, I find that's kind of the McDonald's of sex. Whereas I'm trying to like promote something very different, a bit more wholesome. Not to say that it should be one way or the other. It is a very personal expression. But there are many voices out there about sexuality, and I want to bring something new to the table. I'm really interested in the non-sexual application of sexual energy. Anyway, I discovered this thing, the mystery of sex transmutation, and what it is basically when you are, let's say, horny, instead of indulging in sexual activity such as masturbation or partnered sex, you actually would indulge in you have a different outlet, a different action. That could be writing your book, it could be going to the gym, whatever it is you're trying to do or achieve in your life, you would put that horny energy into this other action. And that sounds like orgasm denial to me. I think there's a time and a place for that. But my job as a sex toy reviewer, I thought I'm not denying my orgasm, there must be another way. So I kept on Googling sexual energy and manifestation, and that's when I came across a video by Teal Swan. Do you know Teal Swan? She's a spiritual influencer. She's very interesting. So she has this amazing video called How to Use Orgasm to Manifest. And I was like, okay, now we're talking. So on that Sunday or Saturday, whenever it was, I'm starting tomorrow. So actually it was a Sunday, and all I was thinking of was cashews and avocados, because they're expensive. You know, if you want to buy an avocado, it's €2, 3-4 euros for some cashews. And I was just like, I started salivating and just like indulging in this orgasm. And the next day, it was funny because it was a Monday, and by absolute chance, I just received this money I wasn't expecting. It was from a client that I had written off, and then I was like, oh wow, I can buy the cashews and the avocados. I was like, win, this works. So I actually went to the supermarket, bought the food, I paid my rent, and I thought, okay, in that month of March, I had 62 orgasms, one in the morning and one in the evening. And the thing was, I completely transformed this is my job, by the way, so I wasn't just, I was testing and reviewing sex toys as well. So, this is like, so I was bringing this magic into my work. And I started it really transformed my way of self-pleasure. I wasn't just thinking of erotic triggers, I was thinking this energy is way more powerful than what I thought. Let me just see if it's the next thing. And I came up with this framework called the 3 levels of sexuality. Level 1, overcoming sexual shame and trauma. Everyone has shame and trauma. Well, not everyone has trauma, fortunately, but a lot of people do. And ever since the Me Too movement, which was around 2017, that made me very aware that this was a lot more common than what we think. And a lot of people have experiences of non-consensual touch or some kind of situation that's been a bit uncomfortable for them. And then level 2, physical pleasure and emotional intimacy. That's where I thought was the top level before. When I discovered sex magic, I realized it was like, imagine I knew this old house, and then suddenly there's a new room, there's a door I haven't opened, and I'm like, oh my God, I did not know this was there. And that's where level 3 is, which is sexual power, sacred sexuality, manifestation, divine connection, and healing. If you're familiar with Tantra or Taoist sex, this comes into it, especially if you're into Mantak Chia, a lot of healing. You can use sexual energy for healing. So anyway, to start with my success stories, about 3 months after I started this practice, I was really focused on collaborations. I was focused on getting more followers, because at the time I had 3,000 followers, and if you're making sponsored content, you need followers. And I started, I did a 30-day challenge on YouTube in May, and then in June I started going, one of my videos got 9 million views, and that really started my traffic coming, my new collaborations, and also money as well was coming my way. So I was really focused on professional goals at the beginning. And it started to work in the June after, but that's been a long time ago now, and I've given lots of workshops about this topic, and one of the best stories, well I can share it later, but let's go back. I'll share one of the success stories in a moment. But level 3 sexuality is something that I am super interested in, and I think it's something that you can experience on your own or with a partner. And it's the most interesting part of sexuality, when you transcend the physical and you're in the space of being souls and spirits. And that's something that's really, really beautiful, I think. So I interviewed a couple called Mally and Joe. They have a book called Wild Monogamy, and they talk about the 3 centers of sexuality, or 4. One is the physical. If you're just having physical sex, it gets boring very quickly. Then it's the heart space, so the emotional, when you have an emotional connection. Then an intellectual connection, that could be something related to BDSM. I mean, that's kind of kinky, but it's kind of a mental thing. Then there's like the soul and the spirit, and that's kind of tantra, kind of divine. I like to say SEX, sacred energy exchange. And it's really hard to find those connections. Well, that's maybe a limiting belief, but you have to be with someone who sees sexuality the same way you do, and it's something that's really cosmic. And you can experience cosmic orgasms as well in this level 3. You can do that on your own as well, which is really quite fascinating. But when you're craving this type of sexuality, and then you go on Tinder and then you find just wants to treat you like a rag doll, it can be really disappointing, you know. So sometimes it's just best to use a sex toy and stay at home. That's what I do. So how to do it? In my book I have many different techniques. Some people like ritualizing it, some people don't. But the basic technique would be literally just thinking of, what do I want? And that's a whole journey to get to what you want as well. Not everyone knows what they want. But it's about establishing what you want, what's missing from your life, what's going to bring you more joy. I have a whole chapter 4, about trying to establish what you want in life, what's going to bring you more aliveness, because we're all looking for aliveness in life, no matter what it is. You know, it could be sexual, it could be professional. We're all looking for that feeling of being present and alive, where you don't need to scroll on your phone. It's just in flow state. So what is that thing what's going to make you feel alive, satisfied? Why do you want it? What's the emotion behind it? And that's something that I've been using quite a lot lately, because I've realized that safety is becoming more important to me, and that can apply to relationships, feeling safe with someone, and it can apply to professional success. Money can make you feel safe. So trying to feel what's safety feel like in my body, and that's what I try to aim for when I am in the throes of solo passion, like safety, you know, groundedness. There can also be excitement, aliveness as well. So it's really thinking about, what is the thing you want? Why do you want it? What's the emotion behind it? And really tap into that emotion. And even if you might not have that thing that you want, you have experienced that emotion some other time in your life. So if it's some kind of professional success, you have experienced success already from a different thing. So it's just trying to remember, what did that feel like? So the basic technique is just basically setting an intention. What do you want? And then just then you indulge in the normal way of how you would stimulate yourself, and then you go back to that intention just at that moment of no return, when you know the orgasm's coming on. And I would really, I think it's a really interesting way to reframe how we see masturbation as well, because some people are very ashamed of masturbation, but it is I would say it's like solo prayer. I really think it's a way of loving yourself, honoring yourself. And especially the clitoris, and if you're female, it's the clitoris has 8,000 nerve endings. God gave me a clitoris, thank you, hallelujah. And just really trying to appreciate that gift that we have, which is just made for pleasure. And it's just been, we've been disempowered for so many years. It's about time to take the power back. So the basic technique is just that. It's just intention setting, and then going back to it just at the moment of orgasm. Because that moment of orgasm, if you're a spiritual person, it's when all the chakras are open, everything is aligned. It's a cosmic moment. It's a very special moment. Then I created this other technique called eroticize your desire. And this is for people who have a more advanced imagination. I have a very advanced imagination, because imagination is a really big tool. And even Napoleon Hill talked about imagination in Think and Grow Rich. Because to visualize, you have to imagine. And imagine is not just about the picture, it's the feeling, the emotions, the conversations, the actual physical feeling as well, not just the emotional feeling. So eroticize your desire is a really fun way of eroticizing something that's not sexy. For example, another one of my success stories, I paid off all of my student loan debts. Imagine, I had been deferring my student loan for many years, writing these letters to the student loans company in England, in Scotland, writing, oh, I'm a low earner. And I identified with that. So I was writing these letters every March or April when I had to defer. And I managed to pay it all off in one go. It was just so satisfying. So how do I eroticize that? I was imagining I was naked in my Barcelona apartment, and then the breeze is caressing my naked skin, and I'm on the phone, take the money, here's the number, you know, and it actually happened. I had to do it twice because they sold part of the loan. So I was like, okay. And then the person on the phone said, no, you don't have to pay it off, they're gonna, I was like, no, I want out. So, and then I got rid of this chunk of letters, which was really amazing. So I started to actually see success from this method. It was really incredible. So eroticize your desire. Another way to eroticize a desire, which I've done as well, because I actually now live in a much better apartment. Like I didn't have any pillows in the past. I'm not sure if I mentioned that. I had no pillows. Now I have 5 pillows. I live in a Champler, much bigger apartment. And Minesh knows my part. He knows I've gone upgraded, up-leveled big time through orgasms. And what's amazing now is that I used to imagine that I was in my new apartment. I wanted to be near Paseo San Juan, so I was imagining Paseo San Juan. I'm lying in this bed. I wanted interior, so there's no street noise, and I'm receiving the best cunnilingus ever. And it happened, you know. Both the apartment and the cunnilingus. So I was really focused on that. So, you know, trying to eroticize something like a new home or paying debts off. There are ways if you are imaginative, you have a vivid imagination. Imagination is a really big gift. And sometimes that's left, you know, in childhood we had imaginary friends, we played house, we had lots of imagination. So it's really nice to tap into that playfulness again. And then another thing is sigils. Do you know what sigils are, anyone? And Victor knows because he's read the book 3 times. You know, a sigil comes from witchcraft. It's basically a symbol that represents your desire. So in basic terms, you would write an affirmation, and then you simplify the letters, or you cross out the repeated letters, and then with what's remaining, you make a pattern, and then you keep simplifying until it's just a few squiggles. And when you're making that sigil, you're already putting the energy or the feeling of what you want to manifest into it. So is it joy? Is it excitement? Is it love? Is it whatever? And then you make 3 of them, and then you forget about them. And then one day you just pick it up, you don't know what it is, and then you just masturbate and look at it while you're coming. So it's a way to kind of communicate with your subconscious, because your subconscious knows what it is. So if you don't want to interrupt your thoughts and enjoy your normal routines, this is a great way for someone who has less imagination. And sigils can be used without a sexual practice as well. So it's kind of a common thing in magic with a K.
I am a money magnet.
Yeah, I'm a money magnet. That's exactly the one we have in the book, yeah. Success stories. Another success story, right? I met a friend a couple of years ago. We went for dinner in this amazing restaurant called Desoriente that's having its anniversary tomorrow, and I told him about this sex magic and how all the success I'd had, paying off my debts and going to be Champler and having I actually got a 6-figure offer professionally as well at the same time. I was like, oh my god, I couldn't believe it. It was really incredible. And when he heard about it, he was like, oh my god, wow. So this guy has an Amazon shop with glassware, and we made a sigil. He wanted to sell £5,000 a day. So that wasn't too far from where he was, but we made this sigil. And he's not a spiritual guy really, you know, so we made the sigil, and then a few weeks later he sends me a screenshot of a whole week of 5,000 a day. I was like, oh my god, I need to start thinking bigger. Because I was just thinking, you know, I don't know, maybe smaller goals potentially. Another friend of mine who didn't like dating apps, she made sigils to just meet men organically. So every day she went out, walking in it, and every day was like, hola, que tal, guapa, hola, guapa, que tal, all over every single day. And then she ended up finding her boyfriend. So, and it was no apps at all. So I need to do that myself right now. Yeah. So I'm really inspired by the people who have learned from my workshops, because sometimes they have amazing. And even just recently, someone told me that they had a big credit card debt, and then the company phoned them and just said, just pay 10% and we'll write the rest off. Can you imagine how big that is? And that was just 3 days after she did sex magic about money. So it's just really amazing. So the manifestation process, there are many ways to manifest. This is not the only way. But this came to me in a download. And I do believe that, you know, everything starts with mindset. And in mindset, we have things like self-concept, which is a really big thing. Self-concept is your identity and what you think you're worthy of. And there are many ways to manipulate this, such as using affirmations or different techniques or subconscious reprogramming. So sex magic is one way, because when we are indulging in sexual pleasure, our brain is like a sponge and we are absorbing messages more clearly. So for example, if you are already imagining your ideal reality, or if you're listening to affirmations while you masturbate, that's a great thing to do, or binaural beats. So it's really about, I would say, I like to call it consensual brainwashing. So you want to kind of get to a place where your mindset is receptive of the reality you want to create. And this is about any manifestation technique, not just sex magic. This kind of came to me anyway, because in the secret, it's about ask, believe, receive, or something like that. It's very simple, but there's no action. But I think there needs to be some action. So the next thing is setting an intention. So setting an intention is the next thing that you would do after you've got this mindset of believing, of self-belief. And then the next thing you do is action. So the action can be direct action. For example, if you are looking for a new job, you might send some resumes. You might want to create space for the thing you want as well, because that's another way of manifestation. For example, if you want to have a new partner, maybe you want to create some space in your wardrobe. I've heard that's one of the techniques. Or even some space in your agenda, to have some space to actually meet someone or to date or whatever. So action can also be getting ready to receive the thing. It's not always direct action. And then the next thing is surrender, which is just giving up control of the thing. So just no after action, then you give up control. And the next thing is detachment. If it happens, great. If it doesn't matter. So having detachment of the outcome is very, very powerful. And the last thing is then trust. So you're just going to trust it's going to happen or not. So if something doesn't happen, maybe it's not the best thing for you. Then in the middle, we have alignment, which is not even part of a process. Alignment is just a mindset, it's a frequency, it's an energy. So sometimes if you're just on that frequency of alignment or believing you're going to get this thing anyway, you don't really need to do any process at all. But I think they can all coexist. So we've got some arrows here to try and indicate that it's a process. Yeah. Next thing. Q&A, any questions? Do you hear?
So I read the one in Spanish 3 times. I understand that there are differences with the one in English, and I just got it last week, so I'm just kind of going through it. What is different from the new one that just came out?
Well,
and the one from October.
Well, the first one was published by Planeta, the biggest publisher in Spain. And they took out the story about the pillows, like the 0 pillows to 5 pillows. I was like, why? This is like a key part of my story. Because living without a pillow is really hard. But I think it's a really big part of it. But also I created a journaling method. I was asked to speak at the journaling festival, so I thought, better get journaling. Because I did mention journaling in the book. And I created a technique which is very similar to the Eroticize Your Desire. So you're writing about manifest your ideal reality with all this excitement, writing as if it's already here, with the gratitude. But also adding a component of sexual energy in it. So imagine if you went, oh, no, I'm in my new house, now with my partner, we're in the hot tub together celebrating. So when you start writing like that, you're going to get more excited, and so you're kind of transferring your sexual energy into it. So I give several examples of that in the new book. And I just kind of fill it out with a bit more storytelling, I suppose.
Okay.
It's 40 pages more than the Spanish one, and I just felt more natural doing it in English as well. Any more questions? Any questions?
Do you recommend reading the book from start to finish?
I think so.
When you bounce around?
The only part I would miss out on, if you're going to omit anything, is the my story thing. You already know it. You've already heard it first time, which is at the beginning. But also maybe about the history of it, because this is not a new practice. This is really ancient. It comes from different parts of history, paganism. People have been doing things on moons with sexual energy a lot of the time. So I would just skip that part, because in a lot of the books I've read, the most useful ones didn't even include that, but I thought it was necessary to kind of explain that I haven't made this up. I would just go right into the second part, which is like just making your wish list, which is from chapter 4 onwards, and then doing it from there. Anyone else?
Yeah, what was your biggest aha moment as you were channeling or right before channeling this new one?
I don't know really. I think it was that that wheel. That just made a lot of sense to me. I don't know. I can't remember. I just kind of. I can't really think it because in the past, it was my 4th or 5th book. I had moments of writer's block where one idea just was stuck, but I carried on writing the rest of it. But that did not happen here. So it was just like it just felt very smooth. It was like I didn't even write it, so it was kind of weird. Yeah. Any more questions? Is anyone inspired? Yeah. You have a question? Are you inspired?
Inspired.
Okay. Cool.
That's important.
Fantastic. So follow me. So follow me on social media. I'm very active, and I don't write too much about this topic, so I am afraid of being censored. So this is a very off the record experience talking about it. And also, I'm very afraid of people thinking, "Oh, she's a witch" or something. This is very weird, you know. So, so this is something, but it's very, very powerful, and I always do. I do it all the time now. So for me, it gives a greater purpose to self-love. There's no shame. I remember watching a video with Jordan Peterson saying, "No one's proud after they masturbate." I thought, well, it depends on how you're doing it.
He's doing it wrong.
He's doing it wrong.
Depends on what you manifest.
Yeah, it depends on what intent. I think intention is everything. Before we go, I would just like to read one little chapter from a chapter called Multiply the Magic. I have a chapter on here about how to do it with a partner. And this is not my area of expertise, but I wanted to just illustrate how I envision or what my vision of sexuality is, because I mean, I want to convey like what I think is sexual beauty, which I don't really see out there. So, sharing is caring. I've always perceived the act of penetration as a magical moment, particularly when a deep emotional bond emerges between the lovers. It is an intimate dance, a sublime fusion in which two bodies intertwine to focus or to form a single entity, exploring the depth of their connection and channeling the energy of a celestial force together. It is an almost indescribable experience, imbued with pure and enigmatic magic. Yeah, I want to manifest that. So, that's it.